I'd compare the recent action in the cryptocurrency market to a roller coaster, but that might not be fair to coasters. From intense and wild swings back in October to broad-based struggles in the last month or so, we've seen a little bit of everything in markets lately. Of course, it's not just Bitcoin and other cryptos getting more volatile, leading tech and AI names have as well. So what should retail investors and traders do? The answer might surprise you. Plus, when you look past recent volatility and survey the broader retail trading industry, you see one thing everywhere: change. From social investing platforms where retail traders can bounce ideas off each other, to AI research tools that speed the process of stock and crypto research, today's trader has a ton of help at their fingertips if they know where to look. That's why I think you're going to like this Money Show Money Masters podcast episode. It features an all-new guest on the show, one with unique insights into the retail trading and cryptocurrency worlds. He's Andrew McCormick, head of eToro US. Andrew, thanks for joining me. Well, Andrew, I really appreciate you joining me here. As we're recording this, there's so much to talk about in the crypto space and the traditional finance world, so I'm glad we're able to connect. If some of our viewers, they're probably familiar with your work, but just in case, can you give a little bit of information about your background? I know your experience is sort of the intersection of finance and law, correct?
Yeah, that's right. And yeah, Mike, thanks for the time today and happy to chat with you and look forward to seeing you in Vegas in February. But yeah, I come from a bit of a unique background. Right now, I have the joy and honor to lead the eToro US team. I've been here almost 4 years, and eToro is a retail trading platform operating in 75 countries, trying to make investing more simple, engaging, empowering. And we offer crypto, but also stocks, ETF options. And like you said, I've come from a legal background before sliding into this role about a year and a half ago. I was a lawyer for about 14 or 15 years, always focused in the financial space, but probably like a lot of lawyers, I spent most of the time as a lawyer wishing I was not a lawyer. So I was very happy to make the transition in 2024 and try to do everything I can to help investors here in the US through my work at eToro.
That's awesome. Obviously, again, so much going on both sides of the fence here. I think I probably want to start with the digital asset side of things first. We had a great start the year, and a lot of optimism about regulatory changes and ETF flows, all these things. And of course, in the last few weeks, we've had some, modestly aggressive selling. What do you
Sure.
think, if you want to set the lay of the land for the crypto markets, what do you think got us the strength earlier in the year, and what do you think is kind of giving us a little bit of a hiccup here?
Yeah, it's never a dull moment in crypto. I hope for 2025 to be a calm, peaceful, maybe even a boring year, but it certainly was not that. Obviously, end of 2024, early 2025, we saw massive market moves upwards, and that was on the heels of massive market moves in late 23 and 24, right, where we saw the price of Bitcoin, go from 15,000 up to 50, and then around 100,000 at the start of this year. I think a lot of that was, of course, the election in the US in November. But more importantly than that, I think the hope for additional regulatory clarity, legislative frameworks, right? Like the crypto industry has been begging for these kind of simple rules and guidelines for a long time. And to have a president in place who seems to care about that topic, I think certainly moved the markets upwards. And like you mentioned, the ETFs, wow, what a powerful tool for retail investors to engage in this market without having to worry about keys and IDs and things like that. And yeah, the recent dips certainly, when you see a lot of red in your portfolio or a lot of red on the screen, it can give you some heart palpitations. But I've been around this space about 10 years. And certainly, I remember air quote crashes down to 3,000, and I panic sold 3 Bitcoin at 3,000 back in like 2018. So now when I see a market move from 125 to 90,000 or so, it hurts and it's tough to look at I love taking the, a little zoom out perspective and you look at that 5-year chart and it's just a tiny, tiny blip, and there'll be more crashes in the future. But I think, the Bitcoin is a powerful force and a powerful force for good for all investors out there. And I think in the march of time, it'll go upwards overall.
Right. I want to talk a little bit about the ownership base and sort of the institutionalization to some degree of things like Bitcoin. I mean, how has that changed the game? Obviously, those early crashes were just, crazy relative to what we see these days, and it was a lot harder to access the market back then versus now. What is the industry like today because of that process?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a wonderful thing, right? A lot of these old school Bitcoiners, you'll go to conferences and they don't want Wall Street there. They don't want institutional players there. And it's a very interesting culture clash of sorts. But I think Bitcoin and crypto should have a big tent. It is a protocol built for everybody, regardless of race, class, location, gender, favorite sports team. I think Bitcoin and crypto can be for everybody. So I love the fact that institutions are coming into the space, just having a bigger tent too. I think legitimizes things a lot. It says a lot when a firm like BlackRock, a legendary financial institution, creates an ETF in this space, and that is a huge movement. I think in the over the course of time, despite recent weeks, ups and downs, of course, I think it'll bring more price stability there, right? Like someone who is sitting at their kitchen table and they see the price of Bitcoin go up and down or buying right away accordingly. That's very different than an institutional approach. And look, we've seen a lot of ups and downs this year, but we're essentially where we were in January. And whereas in other years you may see, a doubling or,
Yeah.
a cut in half. So we've seen ups and downs, but overall, like, that's where we were 9, 12 months ago. And hasn't been stable along the way, but I think that institutional stability certainly helps. And stability encourages more stability, right? So as you see the price of Bitcoin, whether it's flat or up and down, it ends up kind of where it was a year ago, and more institutions, it just leads more institutions and countries and states and pension funds that get into the space, which I think the bigger tent we can have for this, it helps everybody.
Got it. Obviously, you have a huge retail component, retail, and really the finger on the pulse of the retail investor, and a lot of the attendees at our conferences are retail investors. So I'm curious about sentiment. What are you hearing from customers, from investors, the last few months in this sector, whether it's crypto on the digital side or traditional tech stocks, AI, those kinds of names.
Yeah, I think resiliency is what I see the most and hear the most and see in the data as well. The retail investor is very resilient, and opportunistic as well. So, historically, think of retail investor like, oh, markets are going down. Let me panic. Let me sell. But that's not what we see. I think it was like April 7th was the lowest day of the year in terms of the overall broader like S&P 500 market and some of the tariff tweets and the back and forth. But that happened to be the very, biggest day of trading volume for eToro in the US. And so it's always encouraging to see retail investors looking to buy the dip, to have that long-term view. Right. And just like if you go out to a restaurant, a store, and you see something on sale that you like, it encourages you to buy, to invest. And I like it when retail investors think the same way of like, hey, this chip stock is something I think has a huge, massive opportunity for the next 5, 10, 20 years. And there's some news out of China that doesn't really make sense, but it drops in 15%. Let me scoop some up today for the long term. So opportunistic and resiliency. Sometimes you wonder how many times can you keep buying the dip. But anything, when I look back my own trading and investing, I'm always thankful for those moments where you have that long-term commitment, and always kind of cringe when I think about those times I got a little spooked and worried and sold. And like when I sold Bitcoin at $3,000.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys do your retail investor beat survey, and obviously you're looking at not just what's happening in the US amongst the retail investment population, but also
Mhm.
overseas. The Q3 data was fairly positive, but of course it's about 2 months old since that release. How do you think that might change? Do you think it's going to change, or you think that sort of tilt towards more positivity is probably going to be with us for some time?
Yeah, I think we'll have that tilt towards positivity. The retail investor today, they've seen a lot, right? We've gone through, of course, the turbulence of this year and the election last year, but not that long before that, COVID, and for some of us older folks, the financial crisis. So yeah, we've gone through a lot, and I think all those moments of turbulence in the long run ended up being great wealth generation opportunities, right? So if someone had that long-term view back in 2009 of like, hey, I believe in America, I believe in American innovation and spirit and what we built here, like what a perfect time to invest. And they've done really well in the past 15 plus years. So I think, they'll probably, I suspect the data will be a little less positive, but I think overall the sentiment is positive and hopeful. And despite these market moves of recent weeks, I strongly believe there's no better time in history to be a retail investor in terms of the information out there, the tools available, the different asset classes, and just blessed to live in a place like the United States where you can invest how you wish and chase your passions, all those good things. And day-to-day headlines, thankfully, don't change that too much.
Yeah. Andrew, I know you recently had a segment with Joe Malandrino over at NASDAQ, and you talked about social investing. And that's certainly been a thing that we've heard about from other speakers, other attendees. It's a different trading world than 10, 15, 20 years ago. Talk about the impact of that on the individual investor and what retail investors are doing on the platform to take advantage of that trend.
Yeah, I love the question, Mike. So, look, that's the thing that makes you eToro the most unique, right? You can log into our platform and you can, trade in lots of different asset classes, but you can also just log in and talk about markets, talk about the news, talk about your favorite stocks, the cryptos you don't like, and not just talk to the people right around you, in your state, your city, your country, but in 75 other countries. And what an amazing tool to just broaden your perspective, right? It's easy to fall into our own routines and beliefs, right? And as a working dad in New Jersey of 4 kids, I see the world one way. Someone in California, Florida, Texas, Michigan, London, Paris, Sydney will see things differently. And so having that different perspective, I think, is both more educational and also more fun. And eToro, if you see investor that you like, you can follow them, you can comment on their posts, you can also copy them globally and now here in the US as well in their trades. And we have a powerful and legit and transparent tool that I think is really valuable and needed because there's some dark corners of the internet these days,
Sure.
whether it's social media or different websites where people love talking about investing. And you never know exactly if it's a scam or what it might be, right? If they're hyping up a stock, maybe it's real, maybe it's not. But
Yeah.
eToro, if someone talks about a stock and they think it's great and this is why it's going to move or why it's not, you can look at their portfolio and you can see, hey, he or she actually holds it, has held it, has written about it, and this is their performance. And that transparency and legitimacy is really powerful. So, social trading, a great way to learn, not just about investing, but the world itself, and a great way to, I think, become a better investor. And also, it's just more fun. I think doing life together is always more fun and worthwhile.
Yeah, for sure. I do, in the time we have left, I do just have to ask about the impact of AI and AI tools on, whether you're a long-term investor or a shorter-term trader, how are you seeing people use AI and how are you incorporating into the platform for today's traders?
Yeah, wow, it's like certainly the question and topic of the day, it seems, AI. I think you referenced a retail investor beat. I think our last one of our samples showed that the amount of retail traders using AI to help them pick investments has 2x'd in the past year, which is incredible. And I would not be surprised if it does that again in the next 12 months. Because look at my own life. A year ago, I used AI maybe once a week, and then it became once a day, and now it's like once an hour. And I think overall that's going to happen. And if I do it for parenting tips and commuting tips and travel ideas, why not investing? eToro is leaning heavily into this space because I think it is such a powerful tool for retail investors to erase that knowledge and opportunity gap with Wall Street, essentially. And you think of like all the information that exists out there can be at your fingertips in moments. So we're leaning into it both as employees in the work that we do, but the tools are making available to our customers. I think in September we launched a tool called Tori, where it's essentially a chat bot where you can talk about markets and commentary and news right within your eToro app. And I think we'll be doing more and more in that space. And it's a powerful tool. I don't think it's here to replace people, but just to make us all better and more efficient. And we're certainly excited about it. We now have an opportunity where we have allow customers to build AI tools on top of our platform. So if they have like really cool ideas, they can through APIs build on top of eToro. So we are excited about this, but certainly thinking through things from important like safety and risk
Yeah.
perspective as well.
Got it. Well, obviously one of the reasons we're speaking is we're pleased to have you joining us for the Money Show Traders Expo we're doing in Las Vegas in February of 26. So we always have to set some of these topics pretty far in advance, and you're going to be talking about digital assets, risk, reward, and reality. Can you maybe give a sneak peek at somebody what they're going to take away from coming to see you there?
Yeah, well, look, I hope the next like 3 or 4 months are calm and peaceful and no curveballs or surprises, but I doubt that will be the case. But look, I'm a very positive and person, always an optimist. And crypto, I think, can be a asset class that can truly help build and shape a better world for all of us. But there's a lot of negative news all the time about crypto. So one, look, I'm not gonna never run away from that. But let's address it. Let's talk about it. But let's talk about the opportunities, and beyond the headlines and what the product, like a Bitcoin protocol, means, the dream, the vision, how it is and has and will continue to shape our financial markets. I mean, it's transforming equities markets constantly, right? 24/5 trading, 24/7 trading, T+1 settlement, I think is not happening if not for crypto markets. And then finally, the role that I think digital assets can play in a portfolio, whether you're brand new or experienced investor, I think it has a role for everybody. And so excited to talk about it, excited to see the Money Show team and enjoying such a great event.
All right, awesome. Well, Andrew, listen, thank you so much for taking some time out to chat. Viewers, if you're watching this and you want to get the latest insights from Andrew, he is going to be joining us at the 26th Money Show Traders Expo Las Vegas. It's set for February 23rd to 25th at the Paris Las Vegas Resort. You can find more information on the event and register in a link in the description below. Andrew, looking forward to seeing you out there.
My pleasure. See you soon.